December 18, 2017, a Mexican YouTuber defied explicit warnings from a notorious cartel and hosted a party in the city of Jalisco. Ignoring the cautionary threats, he paid the ultimate price, his life, for fearlessly exposing the drug trafficking ring in Sinaloa, Mexico. While his death was devastating, it stands as just one illustration among many instances where journalists met a merciless end at the hands of criminal organizations. In the following accounts, we explore 5 individuals who, unwittingly or boldly, angered the wrong cells, facing tragic consequences for their dedication to exposing the dark underbelly of crime in Mexico. So make sure to stick around till the end because you won't believe how these powerful cartels can silence anyone daring to speak against them. 5. Javier Valdez Cardina.
De la droga como del gobierno, de ejército. Con este ataque querían lograr asustarnos, espantarnos, o seguir respirando. Morir sería dejar de escribir.
On the tragic day of May 15th, 2017, Javier Valdez Cardenas, a fearless journalist, faced a brutal end as an unidentified assailant ruthlessly shot him 12 times in Culiacan, Sinaloa. This grim event marked the culmination of decades devoted to exposing the notorious Sinaloa cartel and its sinister operations. Javier Arturo Valdez Cardenas was born on April 14, 1967, in Culiacan, Sinaloa, the very city where he ultimately met his fate. Javier's journey into the crosshairs of criminal organizations is a tale of unwavering courage and dedication. As a teenager, Javier confronted the pervasive violence in the region, grappling with the harsh realities of cocaine, meth, kidnapping, and human trafficking. In the face of despair that enveloped many, Javier opted for a path of bravery. Armed with a degree in sociology from the Autonomous University of Sinaloa, he ventured into a career as a reporter for the national TV station Canal 3. He became a part of the Noros newspaper, and from 1998 onward, he served as a correspondent for La Jornada. As a founding reporter of the weekly Riodos, a publication that inadvertently became known for its coverage of drug trafficking, he contributed extensively to the field. Several of his chronicles found publication in magazines such as Proceso, Gatapardo, and Amicus. However, Javier's discontent with the cautious approach of mainstream news stations regarding criminal organizations led him to carve his own path. He established Riodos, a newspaper that served as both a platform for exposing the darkest secrets of organized crime and a double-edged sword that painted a target on his back. Undeterred by the inherent risks, Javier continued his relentless pursuit of truth, exposing criminal activities and offering books on drug trafficking, garnering international recognition for his impactful work. One of his standout works, Miss Narco, delved fearlessly into the lives of drug lords' girlfriends and wives, revealing shocking levels of debauchery and abuse. Amid the tumultuous period when former Mexican President Felipe Calderon intensified efforts against drug trafficking, Javier fearlessly navigated the dangerous terrain, devoid of guns or bodyguards. In the month of September in 2009, Riodos boldly released a compelling series centered on drug trafficking. Aptly titled Hitman, The Confession of a Murderer in Ciudad Juarez, this investigative endeavor delved into the dangerous and complex world of organized crime, providing an unfiltered glimpse into the lives of those involved. A few days after the conclusion of this impactful series, the offices of Riodos experienced a harrowing incident. In the early hours of a morning, an assailant hurled a grenade into the premises of Riodos, resulting in significant damage to the building. Miraculously, no injuries were sustained during this brazen attack. Despite the gravity of the situation, the identities of the attackers remained elusive, adding an air of mystery and unresolved tension to the aftermath of this disturbing event. Remarkably, Javier persisted in his exposés, once again provoking the cartel in 2011 when he received the International Press Freedom Award. During his acceptance speech in New York, he boldly condemned the violence in Mexico, attributing blame to both citizens and the government, earning the ire of not only the government, but also the Sinaloa cartel. Published in September 2016, his most recent book, titled Narcoperiodismo and edited by Aguilar, delves into the emotional landscape of Mexican journalists as they navigate the intricate terrain of reporting on organized crime. The consequences of Javier's unyielding pursuit of truth proved dire. On that fateful day in May 2017, he was mercilessly gunned down just blocks away from his office, leaving Mexican authorities grappling with an absence of suspects or leads. That heinous act sparked condemnation from the U.S. Embassy, the UN, and the EU. In the aftermath, Javier left behind his grieving wife, Griselda Triana, also a journalist, and their young daughter. With his tragic demise, 2017 witnessed a disturbing surge in journalist murders in Mexico, reaching a grim total of 6. This alarming escalation revelation prompted widespread protests on social media, igniting the hashtag #Undayasan Karyadikos campaign, which garnered support from various media outlets including Nexos, Animal Politico, Lado B, Lights of the Century, Third Way, Horizontal, El Siglo de Durango Vice, and more. On April 23, 2018, the Secretary of the Interior, Alfonso Navarrete Prida, announced a significant development: the apprehension of the individual believed to be responsible for the journalist homicide. During the January 2019 trial of Joaquin Guzman Lora, alias El Chapo, Damaso Lopez made a startling declaration. According to Lopez, Javier Valdez was murdered by El Chapo's children in retaliation for publishing an interview with Lopez. Fast forward to February 27, 2020, when Heriberto P., also known as El Cola, and one of the perpetrators, entered a guilty plea for the murder, resulting in a 14-year sentence. In contrast, the other defendant, Juan Francisco P. El Quillo, contested the charges, leading to the commencement of his trial on May 4, 2021. And its conclusion on June 17, 2021. Despite the prosecution seeking a 50-year sentence, Judge Noe Aguirreanes handed down a 32-year prison term for Juan Francisco P. El Quillo, along with an order for compensation. Though Javier may have fallen victim to the violence he sought to expose, his legacy endures through Riodos, which was continued by another outlet, Forbidden Stories, and the German newspaper Zeit Online. In the face of imminent danger, Javier Valdez Cardenas stood as an unwavering force for truth, paying the ultimate price for his unrelenting dedication to exposing the dark underbelly of criminal organizations. 4. Anabel Hernandez.
The official story of the government was the mayor, the crazy mayor, his crazy wife, a little gang, and just this fat municipal police that attacked and killed these students.
Anabel Hernandez found herself in the crosshairs of some of the most powerful figures in the government who were hell-bent on silencing. The reason? Her daring revelations in a book laid bare the connections between influential figures and the Sinaloa cartel in 2010. This expose drew the ire of not just the cartel, but also elements within the Mexican government and a faction of the U.S. government. Born in 1971, Anabel had initially harbored dreams of becoming a lawyer. However, her trajectory changed when she observed the biased reporting on the drug war in Mexico. Despite the grave risks, she fearlessly ventured into the realm of investigative journalism at the tender age of 21, establishing her own newspaper called Reforma. Her inaugural front-page story exposed electoral fraud in Mexico City, a powerful piece that garnered widespread attention. As Anabel continued her relentless pursuit of truth, her work attracted unwanted attention from the Mexican government. Unofficial reports of censorship attempts led her to switch jobs, but this did not deter her determination. Trouble escalated on December 5, 2000, when Anabel's father went missing. The family's search uncovered a horrific scene with blood-stained shoes in the trunk of his car. His lifeless body was later discovered on a highway outside Mexico City, a victim of Anabel's crusade against the narcotics underworld. In the face of personal tragedy, rather than retreating, Anabel sought revenge. While working for a major newspaper in 2001, she exposed how the winning presidential candidate, Vincent Fox, misused public funds for personal extravagance, despite promises of economic austerity. The report gained international recognition, but Anabel's journey did not end there. In 2010, she released a groundbreaking book titled Los Señores del Narco, The Mexican Drug Lords and Their Godfathers, a 5-year culmination of extensive research. The book delved into the intricate relationships between cartels, El Chapo, the Mexican government, and the United States. According to Anabel, the Mexican government's structure, policies, military, and financial sector facilitated cartel power and drug trafficking. She boldly asserted that under President Vincent Fox, the government aligned itself with the Sinaloa cartel, allowing El Chapo Guzman to escape prison in 2001. Anabel went further, claiming a secret deal between the DEA and traffickers for the illegal importation of fentanyl and methamphetamine, implicating the agency in a lucrative trade. In response to her explosive revelations, Anabel became a target. Death threats poured in from the Mexican government itself, and an officer she exposed, Genaro Garcia Luna, attempted to assassinate her. His men were sent to her home, but fortune smiled on her that day, and she narrowly escaped their deadly plot. Despite her courage, Annabelle couldn't shake the fear of death. A few months later, she made the difficult decision to leave Mexico. Yet her efforts, while not completely eradicating corruption, did shed light on the dark underbelly of the narcotics underworld. Annabelle's resilience ensures that these stories are shared, believing that people deserve to know the harsh realities unfolding in Mexico. You're not subscribed to the Crime Kingdom YouTube channel. That's why you need to subscribe before the end of this year. We want to get 50 subscribers, and please subscribe so we hit our goal and reach many more people. 3. Jeanette Bedoya Lima, a courageous investigative journalist from Colombia who paid a harrowing price for her commitment to shedding light on the dark corners of her country. Jeanette Bedoya Lima was born around 1974. Lima's story begins with her receiving an award for bravery in journalism, a recognition of her fearless work in speaking out on behalf of victims of sexual violence in Colombia. However, behind the accolades lies a tale of unimaginable trauma. In 2000, Lima, then 26 years old, was collaborating with Ignacio Gomes, another investigative journalist, on a crucial story about the Colombian war against terrorism. Their focus was on arms trafficking involving both state officials and the paramilitary group known as the United Self-Defense Forces of Colombia. As Lima delved into the investigation, she received an invitation from a convicted killer known as the Baker to meet at the infamous Lodel prison near Bogota. Accompanied by an editor and a photographer, Lima's life took a dark turn when, in a surreal twist, she vanished without a trace. The photographer and editor had stepped away briefly for prison clearance, and when they returned, Lima was gone. Lima later revealed the chilling details of her abduction. A man with a scar over one eye, wearing shiny shoes and brandishing a gun, forcibly removed her from the prison facility through another exit. Prison wardens callously watched as she was abducted. Subsequently, Lima was subjected to a brutal assault by a mysterious group of men who violated her while menacingly proclaiming, "Pay attention. We're sending a message to the press in Colombia." Her semi-conscious body was callously discarded beside a roadside dump. Despite barely surviving this horrific attack, Lima's resilience and dedication to her work remained unbroken. Instead of retreating, she intensified her quest to uncover the truth. Her relentless pursuit of justice, however, led to another kidnapping in 2001. Hired by El Tiempo, a Colombian newspaper, Lima assumed responsibility for law enforcement coverage, including reporting on the war involving FARC, paramilitary groups, and the Colombian government. Despite Lima's international recognition and acclaim for her commitment to journalism, danger loomed once again. In August 2003, Lima traveled to Puerto Alvira to report on the town's capture by FARC guerrillas, who had forced its inhabitants into full-time cocaine production. On this assignment, she faced yet another kidnapping orchestrated by an FARC guerrilla leader. The group confiscated their cameras, cell phones, and clothes, instructing the townspeople not to speak to or feed Lima. Despite the dire circumstances, the townspeople defied the orders provided Lima with food and attempted to seek help. Once again, Lima narrowly escaped death when a senior FARC commander intervened, securing her release and apologizing to the leader who had ordered the kidnapping. Lima's prominence in Colombia and her international recognition played a pivotal role in her survival. Today, Lima stands as a symbol of journalistic courage in Colombia, having garnered numerous awards and accolades. Her story not only reflects the perils journalists face when challenging criminal organizations, but also highlights the resilience of those who refuse to be silenced in their pursuit of truth. 2. Enrique Quintanilla. Enrique Quintanilla, a brave journalist, met a tragic end on August 9, 2006. His bruised and lifeless body was discovered outside Chihuahua City with 2 fatal gunshots to his head and back. The perpetrators of this heinous act were none other than the infamous Wards cartel, but shockingly, they weren't the sole entities seeking his demise. A faction within the Mexican government also had a vendetta against him, and the motive behind their deadly pursuit was nothing short of cruel. Enrique Perea Quintanilla, born in 1956, was a journalist from Mexico. Quintanilla's journey into the crosshairs of these formidable adversaries began in 2005 when he took a bold step and established his investigative magazine titled Dos ang Verdad, which translates to Two Sides, One Truth. This courageous move came after Quintanilla had spent 2 decades as a crime reporter and investigative journalist. His mission with the magazine was clear: to unveil the individuals responsible for the numerous homicides and drug trafficking plaguing Chihuahua. Chihuahua, during that tumultuous period, was a dangerous place in Mexico, governed ostensibly by state officials but overshadowed by the omnipotent Wards cartel. This cartel, embroiled in a fierce territorial battle with the Sinaloa cartel over drug routes into the U.S., held sway over all cartel affairs in the region. The consequences were dire: a surge in homicides, corruption among Mexican officials, and a pervasive sense of lawlessness. Chihuahua had become a modern-day Gotham City, with Quintanilla assuming the role of a real-life Batman attempting to cleanse the city. Before his tragic demise, Quintanilla utilized his magazine to champion justice. Focused on crime-related issues, it openly criticized the Mexican government for the alarming homicide rates in Chihuahua, particularly the executions resulting from clashes between rival drug cartels. Quintanilla fearlessly tackled topics such as corrupt officials, unsolved murders, and drug trafficking activities, exposing himself to harassment on numerous occasions. In the days leading up to his murder, Quintanilla escalated his pursuit of truth by exposing photos and documents that meticulously detailed the involvement of government officials in the drug trade. These revelations, with implications reaching even the then governor of Chihuahua, Jose Reyes Biza, acted as the catalyst that triggered Quintanilla's death. On August 8, 2006, Quintanilla was last seen leaving his office around 11 a.m., and tragically, he never returned home. His family reported him missing the following day, only for Mexican authorities to discover his lifeless body dumped along a roadside, bearing the harrowing signs of torture and fatal wounds from a .45 cal pistol. In a twist of events in October 2012, Mexican media house TVAA received a video from an anonymous user featuring two tortured men confessing their involvement in Quintanilla's assassination. Leopoldo Rodriguez Garcia and Armando Duarte Escobedo, the alleged killers, implicated three drug lords from the Juarez cartel in the orchestration of the murder. Another video surfaced on El Diario de Chihuahua, showing the brother of Chihuahua's state attorney general confessing that his sister, Patricia Gonzalez, had ordered the execution of Quintanilla. This shocking revelation left many questioning whether the cartel forced the real killers to confess, attempting to shift blame onto the Juarez cartel. The perplexing saga continued 6 years after Quintanilla's death, further complicated by the tragic killing of one of his sons, Jonathan Perea Cardenas, in 2009. The circumstances surrounding Quintanilla's demise highlight the perilous landscape of investigative journalism in Mexico and the dangerous dance between cartels and government entities. Own Rodolfo Rincon Terracin. Number 1 on the tragic list of journalists murdered for their courageous stance against cartels and drug trafficking in Mexico is Rodolfo Rincon Terracin. However, what sets Rodolfo apart is the fact that he fell victim to the elusive and seldom journalist-targeting cartel, Los Zetas. On January 20, 2007, 5 alleged members of Los Zetas reportedly subjected Rodolfo to a horrifying ordeal involving kidnapping, torture, mutilation, and ultimately burning his corpse in Villahermosa, Tabasco, Mexico. Rodolfo Rincon Terracina, a seasoned journalist and investigative crime reporter, played a pivotal role at Tabasco Hoy, a prominent newspaper situated in the southeastern Mexican city of Villahermosa, Tabasco. Revered for his straightforward and fearless reporting style, Rincon Terracina frequently found himself in the crosshairs of death threats emanating from suspected drug traffickers. His journalistic focus centered on in-depth coverage of the local drug trade, organized crime, and the escalating criminal activities perpetrated by drug cartels within the state of Tabasco. Emerging from the Mexican army, they gained notoriety for their extreme tactics, including beheadings and indiscriminate violence, making them one of the most violent cartels in Mexico. The year 2007 marked a chilling incident when the severed head of a local public worker was callously discarded outside the offices of Tabasco Hoy. This macabre act aimed to intimidate the newspaper, dissuading it from delving into topics related to organized crime. This ominous event unfolded against the backdrop of a city experiencing a sharp uptick in drug-related activities since 2005, particularly at the hands of the militarily trained assassins affiliated with Los Zetas. Rincon Terracina's reputation extended beyond the local sphere, earning him recognition from the International Press Institute as one of the best crime reporters in Tabasco State. His unwavering commitment to unearthing the truth about criminal activities in the region made him a target, showcasing the risks journalists face when confronting powerful and dangerous entities. Despite the grave risks associated with exposing such a brutal cartel, Rodolfo fearlessly continued his work, unraveling their illicit activities through his writing. However, this audacity came at a tremendous cost: his life. On that fateful day in 2007, Rudolfo called his wife from work, assuring her he would be home by late afternoon. Little did she know that he would never return. Rudolfo was working on an article about a group of bank robbers and extortionists in Villahermosa when he left the office around 8 p.m., marking the last time anyone saw him. Months passed without a trace of Rudolfo, and it wasn't until March 1st, 2010, that Tabasco state authorities held a press conference, revealing the grim truth. Rudolfo had been kidnapped and killed by 5 alleged members of Las Aves in retaliation for an article he had published just a day before his abduction. The suspects confessed to the abduction and heinous acts, claiming that Rudolfo's body was burned inside a metal barrel with diesel fuel alongside at least 4 other unidentified victims. However, this shocking revelation lacked substantial evidence. The police closed the investigation solely based on the suspect's confessions, leaving Rudolfo's family and friends with unresolved questions. Why did the police close the case without verifying the suspect's claims with evidence? Could it be that the police were unaware of Rudolfo's fate and opted to shut down the investigation to divert media attention? These unsettling stories serve as a stark reminder of the perilous nature of journalism and crime investigation in Mexico. They underscore the urgent need for government protection to shield these courageous individuals from the dangers they face in the line of duty. So, what are your views on this? Which of these stories left the most lasting impression on you? And how do you believe journalists can continue to shed light on the dark corners of organized crime? Share your insights in the comments below. If you found this video compelling and informative, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more gripping stories and in-depth analysis.